Welcome back to the Explainer, folks. So let's just jump right in today. When most of us hear words like grammar and composition, we instantly picture this dusty, boring rule book just packed with rigid do's and don'ts. But today, we are totally reframing that. I want you to look at language, not as a bunch of rules, but as a really dynamic toolkit. Seriously, every little grammatical tweak, every single descriptive word you choose, it's a tool, and you're going to use them to build something absolutely incredible.
Here is our blueprint for today. First, sentence transformation secrets. Second, crafting vivid characters. Third, writing the perfect summary. And finally, tackling the practice paper.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Sentence Transformation Secrets, or as I like to call it, bending words to your will. Okay, check out the subtle power of just swapping out parts of speech here. In that top example, we're using a verb. I cannot consent to your plan. Right? It's super direct. But look at the bottom one. We shift it to a noun. I cannot give my consent to your plan. Do you hear how the whole rhythm changes? It suddenly feels, I don't know, a little more formal, definitely a bit weightier. You haven't changed the actual meaning at all, but you've completely shifted the tone just by, well, swapping out your linguistic wrench for a pair of pliers.
Next up in our toolkit, we've got the mechanics of expressing a condition. Think of these 4 bullet points as your ultimate checklist for building tension or setting ground rules. In a sentence, you can be totally straightforward and just use if or unless. Or you can make it kind of stealthy by leaving the if understood, like saying, had he told me the truth. Or you could even use a preposition like but, followed by an object phrase, something like, but for my help, he would not have succeeded. Each of these choices gives a totally distinct flavor to what you're writing.
And this right here brilliantly shows how we handle concessions or contrasts. So say you want to show 2 opposing truths at the exact same time. You could say, he is honest, though he is poor. And, well, it works. It's fine. But look at that first option. Poor as he is honest. It slaps the condition right at the very front, and it creates a completely different dramatic effect. Being able to smoothly express contrast like this, that is absolutely a hallmark of truly sophisticated writing.
So here's the crucial point. We've mastered the nuts and bolts, right? We can swap nouns for verbs, we can flip conditions around all day, but mechanics alone do not make a great story. The real question is, how do we take these perfectly constructed sentences and actually use them to build convincing, breathing people?
Which brings us to Section 2, crafting vivid characters. It's time to put down the wrench, pick up the brush, and bring some people to life. Our source material actually gives us this fantastic, sequential 4-step guide for essentially pulling a character straight out of your imagination and making them tangible on the page. Step 1, use observation. What do they look like? What are they wearing? Step 2, depict them through their own words. Step 3, depict them in action. And step 4, use comparisons and associations to really add some depth. Let's actually look at how this works in practice. Oh man, look at this mouth-watering description of a street food vendor. Notice how the writer doesn't just lazily say he was a good cook. No, they show his typical actions and the stuff he's making. A heap of bondas looking like layers of muslin, chapatis so thin that you could lift 50 of them on a little finger. I mean, wow! By describing the unbelievable delicacy of the food itself, the author brilliantly depicts the character's extraordinary skill and salesmanship. You can literally see the scene, and honestly, you can almost taste it. Now, let's jump to step 4, comparisons and associations. Take a look at this incredibly evocative description of a grandmother. Her face isn't just wrinkled. It's a crisscross of wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere. Just a great phrase. And that closing association, it is just beautiful. She was like the winter landscape in the mountains. This concrete detail doesn't just paint a picture of an old woman. It paints this entire feeling of serenity, endurance, and quiet peace. Literally, that is how you use words to make a character unforgettable. Okay, so we've spent all this time learning how to expand our writing, right? Adding all these vivid details and sweeping associations. But what happens when you're hit with a strict word limit? How on earth do we take a vast amount of information and shrink it all down while keeping only the absolute core of what truly matters? That leads us perfectly into Section 3, writing the perfect summary, or using what I like to call the summary scalpel. Let's make sure we define exactly what we're talking about here. A true summary is a concise, precise, and self-contained piece of continuous prose. It conveys the entire sense of the original passage, but, And hey, this is a massive but. It absolutely must use the writer's own expression. It should never, ever just be some lazy patchwork quilt of copy-pasted quotes from the source text. No way. So you've got to keep these 4 essential rules in mind when you're trimming the fat off a larger text. First, it has to be complete and self-contained. Second, it must be your own expression. Third, it has to be precise and brief. Seriously, just ditch all the digressions and irrelevant details. And fourth, it has to read as continuous prose in clear, simple English. So no jerky, disjointed bullet points allowed here. All right, let's actually put your focused learning to the test. Our source material gives us this passage about Dr. Markison. He's reviewing his day, which includes stuff like decisions about stricter exams, pavilion repairs after some recent gales, and a chat with Sir Walter. And then, at the end, his wife surprises him with a cup of cocoa. Now, if you were challenged to summarize the main events of his day in just 50 words, what gets the scalpel? The cocoa and the wife's gentle voice? Yep, definitely cut those. But the pavilion repairs and the school council decisions, those absolutely stay. See? That is the summary scalpel in action. All right, we have gathered our tools. We've mastered sentence transformations, we've painted some incredibly vivid characters, and we've sharpened our summary scalpels. Are you guys ready to apply everything we've covered today in the ultimate test? It's time for the boss battle. Welcome to Section 4, Tackling the Practice Paper. Let's get right into it. Okay, take a look at this prompt. You're given an image of a young girl crouching down in a forest, and she's pressing her forehead so lovingly against a dog. The assignment is simple. Write a story or description based on this picture. So how would you use your character brush here? Sure, you could just describe the trees and the physical setting, but the real magic, that lies in using action and super precise wording to narrate the deep, unspoken emotional connection between this girl and her companion. This is exactly where those descriptive tools we talked about really shine. Then we hit the reading comprehension section, and the source material hands us this absolutely hilarious passage. We meet a character named Laura, and she is literally on her deathbed talking to her friend Amanda. But get this, Laura isn't sad at all. She actually says, "I shall go on being something. I think I may count on being a nice animal, something elegant and lively with a love for fun. An otter, perhaps." So Laura tragically passes away. But the passage does not end there. Very shortly after, Amanda's husband Egbert just bursts into the room, absolutely furious. Apparently, 4 of his prized fowls have been killed, dragged away, and eaten right in the smack-dab middle of his new carnation bed. Amanda asks if it was a fox, and Egbert replies, no. They were marks of webbed feet all over the place. Evidently, an otter. It's so good, the newly reincarnated Laura immediately exacted her revenge. So the practice paper then tests your comprehension by posing these direct questions to you, like, why does Laura believe an otter's life is better? Well, firing up our summary skills, we recall she wanted to be elegant, lively, and completely free from the Saturday to Tuesday business of dying by inches. And how did the otter ultimately prove her right? By showing up with webbed feet and gleefully destroying Egbert's prized garden. Evaluating a text like this requires literally everything we've learned today, reading for detail, understanding character motivation, and summarizing the plot efficiently. And with that, your writer's toolkit is complete. As we've seen, grammar and composition are far more than just stuffy academic rules. They are incredibly powerful tools for captivating storytelling. You now have the sentence wrench, the character brush, and the summary scalpel all completely at your disposal. So the only question left is the most exciting one of all. What are you going to build with your new toolkit today? Keep writing, keep experimenting, and I will see you in the next explainer.